Hello, and welcome back to this week's edition of the Inside Neverwinter Podcast. This is the second ever episode, and with you is me, your host, DJTakuya. This is my heroic co-host, JDog. JDog, say hello.
Hello.
Howdy. I heard you've been getting into the new content from the expansion. Since I haven't gotten there yet, you want to tell us a little bit about that before we dive into everything today?
Well, there are new monsters and everything. It's real fun and stuff. But, you know, it's fun and all. I really like that they added a new expansion, you could say, to the game. And, like, it's just really fun so far.
It certainly seems like it. I'm a little jealous. I haven't reached level 60 yet to play through it, but I did get to level 56. It's kind of slow going for me, so I really am eager because I didn't want to skip any quest content. I didn't want to forgo the old content for the new, so I was trying to play through as much quest until I got to level 60, and then I would kind of go back and forth. Because I love to PvE with other people. I love skirmishes and dungeons. But I think most of the appeal for Neverwinter for me right now is the ability to log on when it gets dark outside and all the kids are in bed. Because I got two little kids in my house, and I just want to be able to sit with my controller and play a game, just kind of for about an hour or two, and get us some story in. And Neverwinter is great for that with its voice content.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I haven't completed the main quest, like I said in the last podcast, but...
So you're talking about the zone quests, like all the different adventure zones?
Yeah. I mean, so far, all the main quests that I've done, it's been not boring, it's been really fun, and I always love doing them.
So you've just kind of got up, and then I know your real life's been hectic lately with football coming back up and school coming back up, so you don't have quite as much time as you used to play.
Yeah.
So what's been the main thing keeping you out of those quests and stuff? Is it just lack of time and just tons of new stuff to do before you?
Yeah, it's the new stuff. I mean, there is so many things that you could do other than the main quest. I mean, it's endless. I mean, there's always new things to do in Neverwinter. I mean, with the foundries, with the PvP and all the other stuff that you could be doing, it just gets overwhelming at level 60 because, you know, it's insane.
Yeah, there's already a lot of content to play through, and it's overwhelming even for me, where I come from an MMO background of playing a lot of games with a lot of content, just a plethora of things to do at any given time. The problem between this and those is that the leveling it goes a lot faster in Neverwinter, so there's almost kind of so in that shorter time span for levels, you have more to do, and it doesn't take you quite as long to get through the levels. So you have this weird conundrum where in other games you're doing all the content you can, and then you just run out of stuff you can do, where you just get tired of running dungeons or something, and you have to go quest for 2 or 3 hours to get to the next level. And leveling is just so tedious in especially World of Warcraft. It's where my main experience is. Compared to this is a sped up progression where playing casually, so to speak, in a span of about 3 weeks, I've gotten to a point where it would have taken me all of a month or a month and a half in another game to get to close to max level. And the important thing to note about that is that the experience rate I was gaining didn't slow down as I leveled. As a matter of fact, the base experience you need to get doesn't exponentially increase, and by that I mean you don't get let's say you needed 100 experience from level 1 to level 2. Once you hit level 2, you would need like 250. It's not an equal amount, it's not the same amount, it's way more. This feels like almost about the same amount as far as you need to do more quests in other games to get the amount of experience to level up than you need to do in Neverwinter, because Neverwinter will have have the same number of quests, will give you relatively the same XP. You're not getting these huge gaps where you just have so much quests to do you can't do it. But that's could be used positive or negative. It's just something I like about the game. Without spending too much time at the opening here, That is your co-host JDog. He's level 60 Guardian Fighter. I'm DJTakuya, level 56 Guardian Fighter, as you stated earlier, and we're almost to level cap there. And that's a good thing because Fury the Feywild just hit 2 days ago on Thursday, August 22nd, 2013. Today is August 24th, 2013. And there's a lot of stuff in the news this week. A lot of stuff happened when the patch hits to patches to the next module, Module 1. And not only did it bring new content and a new State of the Game article written by Andy Velasquez, or The Vask, it also brought a very controversial, it could be called a bug, but Perfect World and Cryptic, they haven't called it a bug. They just stated what happened.
Yeah.
Without going into too much verbiage, here's what Administrator Simpoint Terror. It's a very complicated name. But the admin on the Perfect World Cryptic forums for Neverwinter said, "Hi all. During a brief period of time after the Fury Feywild was live, the success rate for getting the elusive Heavy Inferno Nightmare mount was higher than expected, and we were glad to see some lucky players be rewarded." Note there, they said the rate was higher than expected, not that it was a bug or anything. So it probably wasn't something that happened necessarily by the code. It's more than likely, in my opinion, it was going to have happened on the preview when they were messing with something and put the value up higher to see what would happen for testing something, and probably forgot to lower it down before they launched it. And B, the second thing in that statement, they were glad to see some lucky players be rewarded. A lot, and I mean a lot, of players have jumped on that statement, lucky players. Because those are the players who didn't get a mount or weren't rewarded with a whole lot more from that with that experience, did not consider that luck. They thought it was exploiting. In their words, it is an exploit. In my opinion, an exploit is something that it's intentionally taken advantage of to gain kind of a boost to get ahead. A mount is not necessary. These purple mounts certainly are not necessary for your for any kind of an MMO. Nowhere are you using a mount in any gameplay. As a matter of fact, if you play the game, if you're questing around, the only time you use a mount is when you're running somewhere, either out of Protector's Enclave or around the zone to get to another quest, or if you're just backtracking like I do instead of taking a scroll, because it saves some AD. CM Pinpoint Terror went on to say, "From this point on, we do not plan on performing any rollbacks, and we've made the necessary adjustments going forward. If you received a Heavy Inferno Nightmare mount during this time, enjoy it. Sincerely, Pin." That kind of makes it worse for a lot of players. From this point on, they don't plan on performing rollbacks. The problem with not performing a rollback, from the point of view of a lot of players, myself included, even though I was not affected by this and I never got a mount, probably never will the mount, and I don't actually care. What's important about this is the precedent sets. From this point on, they don't plan on performing any rollbacks due to this, so this was clearly a mistake that they made. Whether they intentionally switched the rate like I think, or something else happened, this is a mistake. Not performing a rollback to fix your mistake. The only reason they would not perform a rollback is if they made something off of that they don't have to get back up. And in my opinion, from where I stand, they don't necessarily need to give up any money they would have got, because the problem with this is the way to open lockboxes is with keys, and you get a key either by buying it from another player, or you buy the Zen for it from another player with your Astral Diamonds by exchanging it, or you just buy it for your Zen on the cash shop. The problem with this is each way the keys only come from the cash shop. Someone spent $1.25 in their real world money. They earned their job, or they have in their joint bank account for their spouse. Yeah. They spent real money on these keys, and the problem with not performing a rollback is presumably they don't want to give back that money that they made on those keys. This might not have even been a mistake when you consider that. They might have done it on purpose, because when Fury of the Feywild went live, we got a new kind of lockbox. The Nightmare lockboxes from the previous, from plain old vanilla Neverwinter, rewarded completely different things and were focused on completely different things. They had mounts, pets, profession packs for leadership, and a jeweled idol that got you astral diamonds, a whole bunch of stuff that basically all pertained to older content. And this new lockbox contains a lot of stuff for the new content: a new mount, a new pet, a new item you can sell for astral diamonds. I think it's a planar idol. A new profession pack for the new professions that we'll talk about in the economy section and during the state of the game. A whole lot of other stuff, and it's all basically an update of that old lockbox. So that old lockbox is no longer available, and it could be considered older content. So it's not like you can get another lockbox. That you won't have lockboxes dropping in the world anymore. As many lockboxes exist in this economy, that's as many as there are going to be ever, which leads to some problems necessarily. Now, obviously, I don't have to tell you this is a problem. What's been going on basically is a bunch of people are calling for them to reverse their decision not to roll it back, because those people feel like it was unfair to them because they spent lots of reward money, anywhere between $1.25 to $100 or something, just as much money as they saw fit, to get keys to open lockboxes. And if those lockboxes didn't reward them with the amount that they were going for, they'd probably open another one. And it's basically playing the lottery. You can argue, and I can argue that those players didn't have to spend that money.
Yeah.
They didn't have to open those lockboxes to try to get that mount. The mount isn't something you need necessarily to enjoy the game. It's just stuff. It's decoration. The fact that you get a mount from questing and that you make enough gold from your first level 20 or so, level 25, basically until you run out of those rental tokens. When you hit 20, there's enough to buy a mount right there.
And those mounts are worth a lot of AD on the market.
Yeah, they do sell for quite a lot because some folks just have AD. So basically, some people left the game or claim to on the forum, and unless Cryptic comes out and says something about it, we won't really know. But the problem with all this, the real problem here is the money. It's always the money. In my opinion, Cryptic doesn't necessarily need to give back that money. If they wanted to really listen to the customers and roll it back even after they said they wouldn't, which in my opinion would be smart, just to make the customers happy, especially people who paid for stuff. I mean, I put $10 into the game, but that was just because, that's because I needed tokens and stuff. I didn't really want to get anything out of it. I never really expect loot or purples or mounts or anything. I always count those as a bonus.
Yeah.
So I'm never really disappointed when something like this doesn't happen. So what Cryptic really could do right now to improve their image, and if anybody from Cryptic's listening to this, please get on this. This would save all those customers who are complaining, and it would save all the customers who got those mounts. You probably need to roll back you need to either roll back the servers completely, which a day after 2 days after the expansion hit is not really very popular, but that would be action. Roll back the servers to before this happened, and
just
let everyone keep the keys they bought. Yeah.
Let
people keep the keys. They still spent the money on them. You don't want to refund that. You don't want to have to go through that. So let the folks keep the keys that they had, because the keys will still unlock the boxes. And in my opinion, problem solved. The mounts, the influx of mounts it's basically okay. The unfair advantage from these people is coming from the amount of money they're getting. That's the argument being made. The economy is an important part of a game, so I'm not really going to dispute that. But that's what's being said. Go ahead.
This could be another factor, because for them it will probably take a long time, because there's over 2 million people playing this game, to roll back. So they may just they're probably being a little bit lazy, not wanting to be able to do it.
Yeah. Well, see, that's something I don't know. I mean, I really hope they're not being, but that wouldn't really surprise me. The forum thread really exploded Monday night, and there's only one Cryptic post and about 61 pages of player posts, most of which saying they're either going to leave the game or being critical of Cryptic's move and not rolling back the servers and allowing the so-called exploiters to keep the mounts they received. Because those mounts, what are those people going to do with those mounts? They're going to sell them.
Yeah.
They're gonna sell them for the same price. They're gonna hold on to them to sell them to make the most money off of them. And the only thing it seems if Cryptic does not take action, the only thing you can do as a player, if you haven't already quit the game, and the only thing is simply not buy that mount. That's free economy. Those people won't make any money off this if you don't buy it.
Yeah, just
So
boycott all of it.
yeah, if you see Nightmare mount, not only don't buy it, I would ignore that player so that you don't see the interactions from them in zone. Wow, that was bad. Uh, and make every effort you can. Be a conscientious objector
Hmm.
without in my opinion, throwing a fit about it. Because if Cryptic doesn't fix it, it's up to us. I mean, that's something we could do to keep that from giving those players who benefited from the exploit because they knew what was going to happen. I call it
Yeah.
an exploit just because that's what it's being called. And I doubt anyone's going to come down on me harshly for calling it an exploit. Most of the people who probably listen to the show probably are on the side of the forum posters. Uh,
Hmm.
the people who exploited it obviously had to know about it. No one accidentally stumbled into this, I don't think. Uh, and I don't want to reward those players, so I'm not going to buy the mount. I know I'm not going to, and I urge you, if you're listening, not to buy that mount either. Don't buy it from anybody because you never know who got it from before the exploit and who got it after.
I mean, most likely, I'll probably never have that much AD to be able to buy one. So,
You probably could if you saved it up to it. You told me just how much you got off your salvages,
oh
which
my god,
yeah,
it's
that's
just
pretty
insane.
crazy. It's good though. The only
Yeah,
problem is that you're limited to so much for refining, so
and
you
it
kind of
just
have to sit on it.
after the salvage thing, it just boosted up the prices of everything in the AD market.
Yeah, that did affect the economy. I want to talk about that when we get to that in the economy because of what that
Hmm.
did. It's a free enterprise in the Neverwinter and the AD economy, so that's the Astral Diamonds auction house market is it's a very good demonstration of economics.
Hmm.
With the loss of those pieces that were bind on equip and now bind on pickup, a lot less money is being made on those, and so the prices of that gear went up. So fortunately, if you get it a fair way, you should be able to sell it for a lot more money. That'll stop ninjas. That'll stop a whole bunch of other stuff.
Hmm.
Um, it just means you have to be creative if you want the money.
Yeah.
But let's hop into the state of the game real quick. Andy Velasquez wrote an article on the Perfect World. Came up in the news blog there. Real quick, Vasquez just covered a few things talked about a lot of stuff in this article pertaining to Module 1, Fury of the Feywild, the open beta and launch, the success of 2 million players, which I'm not gonna dispute, even though that seems kind of dubious. 2 million players. Um, of course, the Neverwinter preview shard brought up in that.
Hmm.
I'm gonna go ahead and link you to that in the show notes, so you can read it for yourself if you want. Andy Velasquez really just kind of takes a look, a lot of we do a lot of stuff, and talks a lot about the Foundry, which I felt was refreshing, because the Foundry
Hmm.
is one of those things that doesn't get a whole lot of attention after you start playing the game. So once you're in the game, the Foundry is kind of one of those things that can fall by the wayside. It did for me, and that's a bit of a shame because it's a really good feature.
Yeah, it
Uh,
is.
Now, obviously, this wasn't the first State of the Game article. The State of the Games just kind of come up every so often, and that's where we get the name for our segment of the show, where we talk about what's going on and basically sum up
Hmm.
things. Really, the purpose of the State of the Game is to sum up all that all that the game is currently, so that you can tell if the game's for you or not. If you're a newcomer and you want to find out about it, we want the podcast to be a way for you to find out if the game's for you or not. So last week we covered pretty much everything in depth. The only thing we didn't really get enough time to talk about was the economy of the Astral
Hmm.
Diamonds market on the auction house, the Zen
Yeah.
Astral Diamond Exchange, and of course the professions. The economy is a very big part of this game, because not only because money is important in every game, but because in Neverwinter, if you don't have a lot of Astral Diamonds, you're you're not able to do some things. For example, you can purchase a complete respec of your feats with Astral Diamonds, and that takes about 100,000 from me. I'm not sure if that changes for everyone else.
Hmm.
And it opens the door for a lot of services if you don't want to spend your real world money. So you have to get creative with your Astral Diamonds. Now, one of the main ways people have been making money up until now is using their Astral Diamonds to they were using them to exchange for Zen, and they with the Zen they'd buy whatever and sell it back on the auction house. If you bought the Zen at a low enough price and sold the item at a high enough price where the time for it was good, playing the market, you would make a profit. The economics of it
Hmm.
are pretty basically sound. I mean, it follows real world economics because it's a digital economy, but it still has the same rules of supply and demand of buy low, sell high, like the stock market. And I still feel like the Zen National Diamond Exchange is a great way to make money.
Yeah,
So
it is.
I'm kind of hogging things here. Uh, JDog, you've got a lot of experience on the AD market. You've leveled some professions, and I'm not sure if
Hmm.
you've done any of the Astral Diamond Zen Exchange, but I have. So do you want to kind of give your impression of the Astral Diamond market and kind of give us your point of view of what that's like?
Well, you know, it's a very good system. I mean, the AD market was a brilliant idea that Perfect World had, and it's really a really good system. And I've made quite a bit of AD off of it. Now, like you said, I haven't any done the AD Zen exchange thing to get Zen for
Yeah,
AD.
it's a little like the stock market. You buy low and you sell high. So if Zen is selling, here's what'll happen. Someone will buy the Zen from Cryptic. They'll sell it on the AD exchange, the AD Zen exchange for Astral Diamonds, and it's a quick way of getting a lot of in-game currency for the cash shop currency. Alternatively, it's a way to prevent paying any real world money, which, like you just said, it's another good idea that Cryptic had.
Hmm.
Because you don't have to pay anything for Neverwinter if you never want to. Everything can be earned just like in other games that aren't free to play. But you just get a shortcut for paying for them. That's the ideal model. If you're going to have a free to play game, you want everything to be earnable through the game. And money gives you a shortcut. That's the ideal purpose of money in a free to play. The cash shop is that you should be able to zip straight to the mount you want or the enchantments you want because those aren't
Hmm.
really game breaking like gear is. You can't really sell gear without breaking the game. But like you're saying about the AD market, with selling stuff on the auction house, um, you're really the one who sold a lot of gear before this change happened for you, the Feywild. So do you want to tell us what that did when our bind on pickups when our bind on equips from the end of Dungeon Delves became bind on pickups? That lowered the price. Sorry, that raised the price on the market, like you said. Do you want to tell us what that did to players like you who enterprised for money by selling the gear they were earning?
Well, it honestly it made me mad because I made most of my profit off of enchantments and the stuff at the end of dungeon delves, and once they made it bind on pickup, I got really mad because I other people got mad too. I mean, if you change something that has been the same for a long time
Yeah.
and people don't like it, it's not going to be good. I don't think they ever should have done it because there there may have not been that big a profit, but I mean there may not been that big a profit on the stuff that you got, but you're still getting some. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, let's talk about that. The effect is different for different players. For me, who wants to earn money through the auction house but doesn't, I don't like to buy a lot of things. This appeals more to me because if I get something, it'll actually be worth selling rather than the stuff I'm crafting through my professions, which they don't
mhm,
really sell for a lot because a lot of the people are making them. Whereas this is cutting down on the amount of gear that's available, especially for classes that aren't played so much. This is really increasing the amount of gear that's available for us. Rather, it's making it more valuable for us. So uh, I kind of liked that change. I'm always a fan when things like this in a game that are um, it's not exploit because it's intended, but it's more advantageous to the seller uh, or the buyer. I feel like you need balance. It needs to be just as valuable for me to get it as them to sell it. So if I'm not able to buy as much, the individual ones are therefore worth more, and we've seen that happen with the
Mhm.
prices rising. Um, the 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 flip side of that coin is going to be that the pieces of gear are going to be available for a lot bigger investment. So
Yeah.
it's not such an easy thing to gear up that way. Which in an MMO where you're trying to get people where your goal ultimately is to have more
Hmm.
people playing the content, uh, that accomplishes that. That gets more people running things. People were saying that would make them run the stuff less because they don't have a reward, but that's not that's not what that change was targeted to. The people that change was
Hmm.
targeted to affect are people like me who are gearing up, where you've got a new character or an alt character, and you are getting the best gear as soon as possible, and that's who they're really trying to target. Uh,
Yeah.
so I mean, okay, you said that you made a lot of your money by selling gear and selling enchantments. So
Hmm.
did this change the enchantments at all? Because you did tell me something about that before we started the show.
Uh, it didn't really change the enchantments. Uh, the
What
thing
did they sell
that
for more? I think you mentioned something that the price on them had changed. Like you were able to make more money
Oh
now.
yeah, yeah. Because of Fury of the Feywild, the
Mm-hmm.
drops for like rank 4 enchantments
Mm-hmm.
and not really are there any lower stuff. But since Fury of the Feywild, I mean, there's level 60s that are going to be playing that. Okay, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't want credit gear when you're doing high level when you're doing max level stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So they like when I was doing it, like I would kill about say 20 enemies and it dropped a rank 4
Mm-hmm.
that it not just a runestone or anything like the good like the dark and the blue ones, I forget what they're called.
The Azure.
Yeah, the azure enchantments.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got on there, and what used to be selling, the rank 5s used to be selling for about 5,000 to 4,000,
Mm-hmm.
now are selling to like 3,000 to 3,500. And
Okay, so the price has dropped on them. They're more affordable now.
mhm,
Okay. Well, that's a good thing because the easier they are to get them, the more we'll be able to use them, and it's not going to be such a capture market like you used to be able to take advantage of.
mhm,
It didn't change, but about by let's see, 1,500, 1.5 thousand out of 5,000. That's going to be about 20%. So it took about a fifth of the price off
yeah,
from our server, at least on Dragon. When we talk raw numbers, we always have to take into account the individual servers have individual economies, uh, and each of them the prices will fluctuate based on the availability people have on that server. So since
yeah,
these rank 4s are dropping from the Sherindar stuff, rank 5s are easier to get, and so they're not selling for quite as much. But they didn't take a nosedive. This is just the what you see when you have a greater supply than you have a demand, which is
yeah,
favorable to the buyer. So now with this conundrum we have changes to gear is more valuable, but enchants are easier to come by.
mhm,
From the point of view of a player who's looking to be gearing up pretty soon and enchanting that gear, that looks good to me. I am okay with that.
mhm,
I also think that makes the crafted gear just a little more valuable. You might want to hold off when you max level, when you max out and you start going for gear, start your gear progression. You might wind up holding on to crafted items longer. That's what I can see.
yeah,
Is I'm really thinking
because
if I craft something purple, it's probably going to stay with me for a long time.
Yeah, because since they did the whole salvage thing,
Yeah.
I have a full set of Indomitable Warrior
Hmm.
armor and a full set of Valiant. I looked at the AD market
Yeah.
and it was just unbelievable how cheap I got it. Because
Hmm.
now everything is out the butt expensive. Because I used to have a Indomitable Warrior sword, but I
Yeah.
salvaged it because it was bound to me. I
Right.
couldn't do anything with it. I didn't need it anymore.
Hmm.
I couldn't trade it. All I could do was sell it for a gold. But it gave me 5,000 rough AD, which
Okay.
that's good.
That's a
Okay,
pretty good. Yeah. That I
for
think.
something that you can't use anymore and you don't want 5,000 AD is pretty dang
Mm,
good.
okay, so I think the effect we're seeing on the economy is that in exchange for this outright plain already refined astral diamonds that you could get a surplus of by farming gear through dungeon delves, what you now have is a way to earn astral diamonds through the old purples that you get from those dungeon delves that refine into rough AD.
Hmm.
And what that's going to cause is, if you're not familiar with how to refine astral diamonds come in two forms. One that's already refined, so it's just plain astral diamonds. One that needs to be refined, and they're called rough astral diamonds. Rough astral diamonds need to be, they have a cap of how much you can refine in a day. So you can wind up with way more than you can actually use in a given day to transfer into real money. So you can't liquidate it right away. So what that's going to do is, instead of having an outright fortune that people make on the auction house, the old gear that they have to salvage is going to make steady profits, basically. I mean, you're basically making money off of that drop. You're just making it in a different way,
Yeah.
and it's because of that cap on refining astral diamonds. It's a lot slower. That that may have been the reason they decided to implement that change, was to slow down the growth of the economy. Uh,
Hmm.
we've seen it a lot in games where things will kind of blow up. I remember when I was playing World of Warcraft back between, I think, the Wrath of the Lich King expansion and the Cataclysm expansion, expansions 2 and expansion 3. Something interesting happened to the economy and to the gear that was available through there. Uh, Namely, that the stats on gear that you were getting in WoW
Hmm.
from one expansion to the next, from the old expansion to the new, exponentially grew, and that follows with World of Warcraft's exponential growth pattern. So you would get this thing where not only did that increase, the amount of money in the economy increased, and it made the economy a lot. It's a lot more difficult to make a profit in that economy because there's a
Yeah.
lot more. It creates a greater price range for the auction house, so it's harder to sell things for good profit.
Hmm.
Um, but it's a different monster because the only currency in that game is gold, uh, gold, silver, copper. The currencies in this game are way more. Um,
I mean, they added new ones. They added a bunch of new ones with the expansion.
New currencies?
Yeah.
What are
I
you
mean,
referring to?
they okay. They got crescents. They got these soul things. I forget what they're called, but
Hmm.
they added new seals. There's three different. You can buy a helmet, a pair of boots, and a set of armor
Yeah.
for these seal for different seal things that you
Okay.
can get. I I forget what they're called. I've only played Fear. I've only done the first like say 5 quests of Fury of the Feywild,
Yeah, you were able
and
to do a little bit tonight, and then
yeah.
because it's been a busy
But
week, of course.
tomorrow
School
I
started.
have to wait a whole entire another day.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That seems kind of like a weird thing to me. Fear of the Feywild brought a lot of new content. We had some quality of life changes that we'll talk about here. I'll point out lots of the new things that you might not have noticed in case you hadn't read the patch notes that
Hmm.
made me kind of jump in my chair a little bit when I read them. Because they really do contribute to better quality of life in the game.
Hmm.
There's some class nerfs that, for the sake of brevity, I won't go into. There's a lot of nerfs and fixes and adjustments. Um, and like any time when your abilities are being nerfed, or buffed, there's some time to adjust because your paradigm has shifted. So of course there's the typical cry of nerfs. We won't get into that too much because nerfs come and go. Nerf it's very zen, but nerf is the way of MMO. So if
Hmm.
something's outperforming the rest, they nerf it. They don't buff the rest
Yeah.
because it's harder to then maintain uh, because of because if you I want to get this out really quickly because I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about buffs and nerfs. But if you have an overpowered, quote unquote overpowered, take that for whatever value you put on overpower. If you have an overpowered class and the
Hmm.
rest of the stuff is underpowered for them, if you boost the rest of that stuff, you start getting exponential growth in the game. And ultimately, I don't think that's good for the game. So, because of the crazy numbers that come up, and it's not as satisfying as seeing steady growth. It's briefly satisfying, but it feels fake afterward, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So they nerf certain classes because they're outperforming, and they perhaps didn't intend to, or they didn't foresee, or in some cases, players are simply more ingenious in the way they use characters than developers were when they created classes, and that's just all there is to it. You really cannot foresee everything until you get a class in the hands of somebody who is actually playing it and did not was not involved in
Hmm.
the development. So that's always going to happen. I'm surprised it took this long, but um, but all in all, nerfs come and go. Not too much to worry about there. Lots of new content that you were mentioning. Two new
Hmm.
races. Let's talk about those real quick, and then we'll get to what you had to say about the Sharendar experience because I haven't delved into it yet. And I want to get your point of view on that. The two new races that's present for free in Neverwinter are the previously talked about Drow race. We had talked about that last week. There was not any word on that last week. And in the middle of the week this week, they announced, yes, when Fury of the Feywild goes live, you were able to play the Drow that we told you about when that you were able to buy in the pack. Uh, and of course, it's not the exact same race. It is slightly changed. Because it is free, it's not quite as shiny or
Hmm.
pretty. But in my opinion, who cares? I mean, everything in the game still looks pretty good.
Yeah.
And the other new race that we have for free are the Sun Elves. The Sun Elves have a counterpart, Moon Elves, that are like they're like the Menzoberran. They're the premium race,
Hmm.
and they're not going to release those later on because they've already released the free variety already. So they didn't put a weight on it like last time. So that probably is
Hmm.
going to be our new paradigm. We're probably not going to see new races be staggered like that anymore. Uh, because, well, I'll take that back. We might, if they only implement one kind of race, they might be staggered again. But since they had two, it worked out to make them one for free and one for premium.
Yeah.
The new class coming soon has been confirmed to be the Archer. I can't pull up the page right now where I read it, but it was either data mined or squeezed out of a dev that we're getting the Archer. So if quote me on that, and if I'm wrong, you can cut off my head. So
Will do. Will.
let's talk about the new content that you jumped into, because it did take a little bit to adjusting, but it's a campaign system, and so it's kind of staggered by
Hmm.
the day. Excuse me for that noise there. It's kind of staggered by the day there. So tell us about what it was like to jump into that, and then when you kind of hit that point where you couldn't progress anymore for the day.
Okay, when I first got into it, I thought it was pretty cool. Okay, there was this place I had to go kill things, but one. Okay, I had to kill these little tiny people. They were really small and stuff. I kind of a little bit forget, like, and stuff because
Well,
I
I know it
played through it.
started by going to talk to Sergeant Knox,
Yeah.
because when you're level 60, you can go talk to Sergeant Knox, and it starts the mystery of Sharendar. And I know that you can also start the daily quests
Hmm.
with Lord Neverember through that. So that's where it starts, right? So you go talk to Sergeant Knox, and then you get access to Sharendar. So you're not
Hmm.
able to port to it until then, until you go talk to Sergeant Knox. Is that it?
Yeah, you can't go. You can't go to it until you talk to Sergeant Knox and uh, do everything
Okay.
that you have to do.
Which makes sense. Sergeant
So.
Knox is kind of like our boss in the game. He tells us where to go and
Hmm.
who to kill and what to fight and what zone to explore. So that kind of makes sense. That in my opinion is to Neverwinter's benefit to have an NPC that does that.
Mhm.
And of course, we saw him in the we got a good introduction to him, and he stayed throughout us, so we didn't forget him. Um, but anyway, enough of that tangent. Sorry about that. So you started the new quest, and it took you to Sherendar. Were you immediately able to get that daily quest from Lord Neverember?
Yes, I was.
Okay.
And it was weird when I got it, because, like, I guess it's special if you talk to him when you're level 60, because,
Yeah, it's exclusive for level 60.
everybody started cheering my name, all the guards were and stuff. I felt special.
Whoa,
It was a very happy moment.
neat.
And, I went to the, lady you have to go to be able to talk, you gotta talk to her and stuff. She's, like,
Right.
close to the entrance to the one bar that you can go to up in the sky, and
Are you
you
talking about the
talk to her.
Moonstone Mask? You said the bar in the sky. So
Yeah, she's close to the entrance to that.
okay, so for players who aren't familiar with that, the Moonstone Mask is a floating part of the city. It has a VIP section for players who have bought a pack, or maybe
Hmm.
it's just the Founders Pack. But anyway, it's accessible if you go through the city between the companion shop and the auction house. Excuse me. And the marketplace is what I call it. If you go between those, you're able to see these floating rocks that lead off to a thing. That portal, there's a portal right there that you can hit F on, and that'll take you to the Moonstone Mask. It's the outside of a big inn. That's just a fun place to hang out, but in my experience, not a lot of people know about.
Hmm.
I think because people think it's like higher level exclusive. So,
Yeah.
all right, so go on. Sorry for interrupting you there.
No, it's fine. It's fine. But anyway, I talked to her. She tells me to go to. Man, I do not have a. I'm sorry. I don't have a very good memory. I forget a lot
Sherendar,
of things. Yeah.
the new zone.
And
Okay.
once I get there, talk to the I talk to the Scry. He tells me to go free these captive soldiers, and
Okay. So that's
they're
the first
pretty
quest.
easy. Yeah, the first quest is to free the captive. You have to free two captive soldiers,
Hmm.
and once you free them, uh, you gotta. Well, anyway, it's just fun. I don't really remember anything.
I'm
Remember that
sorry, you're
much.
tired. We've kept you far too long.
Yeah.
We're almost at the 45-minute mark, so I think that's a good place. To close things out today, I want to bring up the rest of the changes. Now, of course, we talked about all the overview of stuff like the new salvage system, the
Mhm.
dungeon event chest changes, Astral Diamond changes. We talked about some of the stuff like the Zen on the gate, the Zen market on the gateway, uh, companions and so forth. We know that the bounty items go on the currency tab in the currency bag there instead of being in your regular inventory. Some of the other stuff that happened aside from all that stuff and class nerfs have to do with the
Mhm.
Foundry. You can now search in the Foundry for tags like story rich or combat heavy, RP exploration, something like that, and it's able to uh, the way it works is they're added to quests by players during the view process. So if so when you play through it, you're able to kind of tell other people what it's like, what it's about. Uh, which you weren't able to do before. You could tell in about maybe 200 characters or so what you thought of it. You could tip the maker. You could give it a rating, and that was it. Now we have an ability to add tags to it to make it searchable. I'm
Mhm.
not sure. It's not real clear whether those are automatically added if you type them in, or if it needs uh, so many people write that as a tag and then it gets added. There's also new assets for the Foundry, more stuff for to add in there. They improve some of the features, uh, like 3D editing and the catalog search. Uh, I haven't had experience making Foundry, so I'll have to get back to you with that once I've tried it out because it's something I was waiting to get to until after we started the guild. So
Mhm.
next we have some of the best things in my opinion about this change. They're all quality of life basically. So the chat still used to be just spammed in zone chat when you enter Protector's Enclave. You would have trading stuff going on, group forming stuff going on, and you would have gold sellers competing for attention. And
Mm-hmm.
what that caused people to do is people want the message to be seen. So there wasn't a limit for the amount of there still isn't. There's not a limit to the number of messages you can send. So in order to be seen, people would either cover the screen in it, cover the chat box in it, or it would come up every time. They would just always make sure it was in the chat box. So you'd have these few people just capitalizing on the zone chat and chat box, and you could not ever get anything done. It's
Yeah.
very hard. So, and now we have the looking for group channel, and we have the trade chat channel that allow us to kind of take those to other channels, and zone is a lot less flooded now. No one competes for attention now. There's slightly different colors for the text, so you can tell what's what, and it's a lot better when you're trying to get something done and when you're trying to find things out when you're just in town.
Yeah.
And the inventory, there were some fixes with that. There were some icon fixes. The other thing that really struck me as being a quality of life improvement, I'm searching for it right now, aside from the bounty tokens that will stack and the currency bag that gives the currency bag that got added to it, got expanded. I was reading through the changes and I was really excited because of some of the stuff that had changed. Not only the new professions, which sound really awesome. Where is it? I just read through stuff, and I know I saw it, and I was so excited for it. It might have been for my class. I don't know. It probably was, but I won't go into that just in case we have listeners who aren't Guardian fighters, and they don't want to hear all that unnecessary stuff about GFs.
Yeah.
We don't have a GF podcast, so we're not trying to capitalize that with our class only.
Yeah.
It's just by chance that we play the same class, folks. It was not conspiracy.
Yeah, I was like level 55 when I met him.
Yeah, we were both like, this will be cool, and then we actually became friends. So it's all coincidence, I assure you. No conspiracy here. The last, quality of life change that we got was to the online gateway. Neverwinter has a web page where you can manage your inventory, your auctions, you can shop on the auction house for things, and now they've added an inventory tab that is able to claim and refine astral diamonds, open chests, view profession assets and companions. You're actually able to go to a supply store on the gateway and purchase booster packs, bags, profession supplies. So I mean, all sorts of different things that you need that you basically that you before had to log into the game for. You don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, I hope they eventually make it an app on a phone or something. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, I'm counting on players to do that. That is something. In my experience, when you need something like that done, people are much more serious about their fun, so they'll make things that makes their fun better. So I'm hoping I think a fan will do it right. I think fans always do.
Yeah.
With when you have stuff like this, they always do things the best way that it could be.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have an agenda they just want to make the game better. So that's usually what happens. And I wouldn't mind paying 99 cents or $1.99 for an app like that. That would be well worth my money for access to something like that.
I mean, you could get all the things you needed without even being in game.
Right, and the only thing, so if you're one of those players who only logs in to invoke and do professions, well then you would only log in to invoke, because professions would always be with you. So it also would make it a lot easier because I wouldn't have to get out of bed in the middle of the night for when I know my stuff is done. I could just wake up and do that real quick and go back to sleep. Looks like we have covered all of our news and events. Keep an eye in the description below for the podcast for all the links to the stories we talked about today. The forum thread, including the update to the Nightmare Lockbox that threw everyone up in arms. The State of the Game by Andy Velasquez, and the complete list of changes for the Fury of the Feywild, all the stuff that came in, and the new features, new whatnots, and quality of life changes, all in the description below for links to those stories so you can read them for yourself in their entirety. We do our best to bring you a summed up version of what we have for those changes. And I think that puts episode 2 of the Inside Neverwinter Podcast into the can. JDog, how do you think we did?
I think we did pretty good. But with our guild, I mean, whoever watches this, I mean, comment and ask us what you want us to call our guild if you want. I mean, we don't know yet, so...
We have some ideas, but we
Yeah.
always want input. If you are on the Dragon server or looking to play Neverwinter, find us on the Dragon server, both at the at DJ_Takuya, and that's capital D, capital J, capital T, AKUYA, all lowercase there. And then you can find JDog at with the at handle at Overlord Master. So you can add us onto your friends list when you're on the Dragon server. Find us in game. We'll join you up with the guild. If you're looking for a home, this is where we'll be. All right, JDog, anything else to plug or anything before we go home tonight?
No.
Anything to mention?
Really.
Anything you want to? Nothing. Okay. Well, that about does it for me too. Still just playing the game, enjoying it, looking forward to that new content like you were telling us about. And
Yeah, I didn't explain it that well. That's my bad.
it's okay. It's okay. I think the message comes across. Nothing quite like experiencing it for yourself. So, just congratulations for another episode. Well done, bud. To you, the viewer, thank you so much for listening. This has been me, DJTakuya, with my co-host, JDog. This is the Inside Neverwinter Podcast, Episode 2, and you have just witnessed the very second ever episode. Hopefully many more to come. Alright, if that's everything, we are good to go. Say goodnight, Gracie. Good night, Gracie. Bye, everybody.